Hello again, and another Sunday night short to follow. Haven't yet fired up the computer to start editing. The lighting up in this room isn't very good, and the black background helps with the white balance on the camera. Haven't done much out in the workshop this week, apart from I have got the compressor into its new home on the pads and the resilient mounts, and yeah, did that on my own yesterday. Mostly it was an obstacle course, but actually moving it turned out to be not too difficult, and apart from a bit of a bruise where I got a wheel caught and was having to take the full weight of the compressor with my chest for a bit, no problems. I've got a couple of bits of salvage from work to show you, which I think are going to be useful in the workshop when I get them rigged up. And the other thing I did this morning was I went to visit a gentleman for another remap project, and he's someone who has difficulty standing because of complications related to diabetes, which went undiagnosed for 10 years, and those of you who know about diabetes will know that the elevated glucose levels damage the capillary blood supply and lead to nerve damage, and eyes can go, and all sorts of things are associated with it. Which is why it's good to get checked out from time to time and see how your insulin system is functioning. Myself, my doctor did a check, and I have impaired fasting glycemia, which means that my glucose levels are elevated above the normal range, but not yet into a range that would cause me problems. But it's something I have to keep an eye on, and certainly, although I don't take sugar in coffees or anything like that, I was still able to cut back on the size of a glass of fruit juice, and actually cut out a lot of high sugars, really with no effort at all, and it's well worth doing. Anyway, what this gentleman wants is something that will allow him to stand upright and put a bit of weight onto some sort of support to steady himself when, for instance, he's hanging washing on a line or doing things in the garden. So I went to see him this morning. I did some video of him hanging washing, just to see what he was doing, how he's coping. I'm not going to put that up at the moment, because I need to clear all that with him and with remap. But I'll do some investigations and come up with some ideas of what's going to work, and then maybe we'll see that in future. Anyway, I'm just going to grab the camera off the tripod, and we'll look at my little bit of, well, it never made it to the skip, so it's not skip diving, but a bit of salvage. Okay, what I've got here is a pair of peristaltic pumps, and these came out of an industrial dishwasher, and they were for introducing the detergents and whatever. They've got a couple of different basic rates, hence the different colours, and they are actually speed adjustable, as this yellow plate pops off and there's a speed adjustment pot. My thought on these is actually to use them for applying oil, cutting oil to a cut, so that I've got a whole load of stainless steel capillary tubing, and if I rig one of those up with a little holder, I can actually have a steady and controlled flow of oil onto a cut. You know, particularly when you're parting, as you get deeper, you know, the brush technique doesn't really cut it for getting oil right down to the base. But a little capillary tube would be just the deal. And you know, if you're only putting oil barely ahead of the cut, you've got the minimum amount of oil fling. So things might be a bit tighter. We'll give it a go. But got to rig up a reservoir and get the capillary tube and a holder and whatever set up. But hopefully that's something we can do in future. There is now a gap in my little lean-to where a compressor used to be, because yesterday I finally took it on a little journey, and I had to move a lot of stuff out the way and then move it back. So we've got there's a spare hood for a beat. It's a very rusty one, but it might still be useful while I do work on one of the others. And the odd bike frame, big sheet of PVC. There's a Elliott Progress pillar drill down there awaiting a rebuild. The sacks have got green bond casting sand in. Various bits of Triumph. Some of my metal stock for when I eventually get around for casting. Both of those are full of hard disk drive casings. That's the fan shroud of the compressor, which is a really nasty, flimsy construction. And seeing as it's going in an enclosure, I'm not going to worry about keeping that. We'll keep on working our way down. Try looking at the real world, not at the camera screen. That's a couple of industrial racking rails with some server shelves welded across it, and that's what I use to get my milling machine and my lathe from one workshop down into the other. Small container of cutting oil. Around the corner. The bins contain Mans Bond oil bonded casting sand. That's the stands for my Clarkson tool and cutter grinders waiting rebuilds. All sorts of steel bench framing that's resource material for whatever project. And my hard serving sack truck that I moved the compressor on. I think these were £15 from Aldi, and well, it's got a prolapse wheel bearing, but still just about coped. And there we go. The compressor is in and on its mounts, and well, it's hard to show you, but the mounts are absolutely fine. It works perfectly on them. And the enclosure's got a back panel. I've got some paint on one side panel. That's something I had left over from years ago that I'm using up. And well, I can't say it's a particularly quiet compressor, and certainly in this this little alcove it's definitely going to need the enclosure to quieten it down. I've got a temporary hookup coming out the window. Let's fire it up. It's not too bad. It's certainly quieter than the other compressor. Once I get that enclosure made, that's going to be a nice setup. I think that's another 25% more air than my other compressor, and I can get the other compressor probably out into the shed down the garden that's just storage. And got to get the enclosure made and the little vent fans mounted, and that'll finally be done.